What if the crown of popularity you wear, gleaming under the relentless gaze of classmates' envy, heavy as a halo forged from whispers and winks, concealed not a conqueror's core, but a hollow hum of unspoken solitude, where the effervescent pop of Ramune marbles against glass mimics the fleeting burst of forced familiarity, the sticky sweetness of shared sodas cloying on your tongue like unearned affection, and a single, sidelong glance from the shadows pierces the performance. Am I the idol they idolize or the echo they ignore? Inhale the faint, fermented tang of schoolyard secrets mingling with the crisp bite of autumn air. Feel the phantom press of a hand extended in hesitant help. Hear the muffled murmur of a door creaking open after months of musty silence, as a golden boy's grin falters in the half-light of a hikikomori's hideaway, evoking the gilded cages of the Great Gatsby's Long Island lawns, where jazz-age jasmine danced on the edge of emptiness, or the isolated ink-stained vigils of Kawabata's snow country, where geishas gazed at mirrors that gazed back unchanged. On October 7, 2025, as Tokyo's first fallen ginkgo leaves carpeted the sidewalks in subtle gold, Chitose is in the Ramune Bottle Episode 1. Popular bad boys do well in high school, effervesced into the fall season's arc of awkward awakenings, the inaugural bubble in a series simmering with the slow fizz of fractured friendships and forbidden fizzles of feeling. It's a Ramune riddle, intriguing in its sly subversion of the high school hegemon, yet veiled in the vapor of veiled vulnerabilities, leaving me with a burp of bemusement and a belch of belonging, like swigging from a bottle whose marbles roll just out of reach. Have you ever played the part of the paragon so perfectly that the proscenium cracked, revealing the prompt of your own isolation? The episode doesn't uncork, it condenses the carbonation, suspense bubbling beneath the surface like a shaken soda, curiosity the cap threatening to pop, inexorably inviting you to indulge the imbibing. What effervescence would you chase in the bottle's bottom, and what dregs of doubt await the dregs? In the sun-dappled sprawl of a seaside high school, where lockers clang like distant applause and the sea's salty sigh underscores every sidelong stare, Saku Chitose reigns as the unchallenged apex of adolescent allure. His team Chitose, a tableau of admirers orbiting his effortless orbit, their chatter a chorus of covetous compliments that curdle into caricature. Yet when homeroom's harried harbinger, teacher Iwanami, corners the crown prince with a clandestine charge, to coax the reclusive Kenta Yamazaki from his cocoon of curtains and canned regrets, the idol inverts into an intimate incursion, Chitose's polished patter pattering against the shut-in's stony silence in a first foray fraught with fumbling familiarity. As this premiere primes the pump, no prior episodes to prelude, only the manga's meandering marbles from 2021. This opener oscillates from ostentatious overture to opaque overtures, priming arcs of reluctant redemption and ripening romances. Envision yourself there, heart hitched in the humid hush of that darkened den, the faint flicker of a screen's glow gilding Chitose's hesitant hand on the doorknob, the air thick with the must of unwashed uniforms and unspoken urgencies, much like the tentative thresholds in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, where mixtapes mask the ache of outreach amid the roar of the regular. Does the door swing to solidarity, or slam shut on solitude's snare? The précis pairs to the precipice, a summons subtle sting, a seclusion's somber siege, a spark's shy scintillation. It's the incipit to Salinger's Catcher in the Rye Reveries, irreverent incisions without the full incision, not the chronicle's clash complete, but its covert clarion laced with citrus, that visceral vice clenching your chest, compelling you to crack the cap, calibrate if the camaraderie cures or curdles. Not the narrative's nectar, but its nascent nudge, the inexorable itch to imbibe, intuiting if the bottle's bubble bursts the boy's burden. This inaugural infusion advances with the deliberate drip of a dissolving tablet, gentle in its gathering of gossamer group dynamics, then gently effervescent in eruptions of empathy, propelling the premise from Chitose's unchallenged unchaining to the brink of breached barriers, illuminating the shut-in's shrouded sphere while seeding scholastic skirmishes. Through the teacher's tactical trust, revelations ripple refined, the womanizing scumbag sobriquet as societal slight rather than self-same, Kenta's cloistered cosmos a canvas of quiet catastrophe, no seismic shocks but a subtle subversion, the initial incursion's icy impasse as incubator for intrigue, that apexes in an anticipatory afterglow, alliances aflutter and absences aching under the after-school amber, pacing Parley's poise with pulse, distilling manga's inaugural chapter into 24 minutes of measured mischief, languid levity in the lunchroom's limelight yields to lurid lingers at the lintel, equilibrating the rom-com's romp with the redemption's rumble to refute routine's rut, the cloudy aspects that cloud fervent forums, those vexing veils like Chitose's compliant capitulation or Kenta's curtain catalepsy. Why yield the yoke so swiftly to the shut-in summons? Is the hikikomori's hush histrionic or heartfelt? Provoke perennial parsing. The manga, serialized in Yura Sunday since July 2021 by Hiromu, with 6 volumes by 2025, the rehabilitation arc spanning chapters 1 to 3, elucidates these enigmas with empathetic exactitude. Chitose's celerity, etched in Chapter 1's covert confab, stems from a subterranean sympathy. His scumbag sheen a shield for a sister's similar seclusion, foreshadowed in fleeting family frames. A tactical trompe-l'oeil echoing historical honor codes like the samurai's Angio no Gi, where duty disguised the drift toward despond. Kenta's catalepsy, Chapter 2's deliberate detour, his hush a trauma talisman from a torrent of taunts, detailed in dorm room doodles. His stasis a narrative nacelle for nurturing nuance, contextualizing the animation's abbreviated allusions as accelerators to affinity. Fans fret the fidelity. Reddit rants decry Chitose's charm as calculated creep. Yet this adaptation, by Doga Kobo, honors the source's subtlety by streamlining soliloquies, transmuting murk from misprision to metaphorical mystery, ambiguities as alabaster allure, loose to lure the legions deeper. What if the episode's enigmas are the Ramune's marbles, rattling to reveal the riddle's resolve? Chitose crystallizes as chimera of the charmed, his fissures from fraternal facades, forged in the foundries of a family's fractured facade akin to the gilded gilts in the catcher in the Rise Central Park perambulations, ignite motivations of defiant diplomacy. His dashes a consistent cocktail of charisma and cringe that surprises in solicitous stumbles, transformative in the tentative thaw toward tactile truths. Kenta, the cloistered cipher, unearths an undercurrent of uncharted unease, wounds of withdrawal wanderings fueling fealty to the familiar, choices like curtained comebacks consistent in cryptic candor, growth glinting in guarded gratitudes that gamely humanize the hermit. Iwanami, the instructor's ironic icon, layers legacy with latent levity, his lectures a motivation masked as mandate, surprising in suave sympathies that seduce the scrutiny. Transformative, transcendentally, like Holden Caulfield's Ryefield reveries ripening into reluctant reach, dialogue drifts from derisive decrees to doubt-dappled drollery, ascension arched in every averted avert. Reader, when have your spotlights scorched the solitude, turning tribute to trial in the tumult, the episode excavates with every man's incision. What dominion dawns when dynasties dissolve in daydreams, power's predatory partitions, or morality's meticulous mimicry? Sacrifice surges in Chitose's summoned sojourn, a sovereign's shadow for the self-salvation, struggles manifesting hope's hammered helm against despair's dulled dirk, evoking Camus' carnival of the absurd, where the outsider smirks at the school's stone. Morality modulates in the mentor's machinations, choices like the Hikikomori's hush a survival stratagem in social snake pits, vivisecting power's peril in predestined pantomimes. Hope versus despair, the bottle's buoyant bubble a grail, exhaling how hilarity heals history's hernias. It pierces pretense. In your own arbitrary academies, have you sacrificed sincerity for the spotlight's slight, morality for the midterm's mirage? The seaside scholastic sphere sprawls with subversive splendor, the Ramune ritual a rubric of resilience, new lore in the Hikikomori's hazy hierarchies, and team taboos complicating cliques with cultural caprice, enriching the rom-com realm without riddle. Akin to Tanazaki's, some prefer Nettle's grafting governance onto the grotesque. The script simmers with suitor's sting, sharp sallies splintering silences, poetic in profane profundity. Chitose's lets go a cliché consecrated as clarion, lines lumbered with foreshadows filigree that reverberate like ricochets in a redoubt. Impactful, incisively, each utterance an undercurrent carving canyons. Envision it echoed in the Esplanade's emberglow, his vow veiling the vanguard. Would you breach the bottle if it bade your blood? The writing wields not with waste but with whetstone, honing the haze in the half-heard. The credits curtain a clarion craving the charge, art direction drips with desirous detail. The campus a tapestry of twilight teals and tawny treats. Colors connoting cravings creep, lighting lacerating limbs in lunar limbs that shadow the shut-in. Fluidity flares in fervent flutters, symbolism in sway. Still silences versus sinuous shifts, forging impact where beauty bespeaks bondage. Not vain veneer, but visceral vow. Like Hokusai's waves washing the weary, direction deploys the frame as forbidden fruit's flesh. Close croppings caressing contours in confined closeness. Compositions constricting the clique in chiaroscuro clutches to magnify magnetism. Editing a erotic etude. Languid lingers in longing's lap, abrupt accents amplifying. Arousal's arc. It mirrors moods in meandering montages, tension taut in textured touches, ensnaring you as if the lens laps at your latent longings. The OST undulates as unspoken urge. Sultry strings swelling in seclusion's swell, motifs of muted moans elevating encounters that embed eternally. Crescendos convulse in climactic crests, a chorus coiling, while silence seduces. The post-press pause, potent as a predator's pant, outvoicing the overtures. What nocturne narrates the night's negotiated needs? Yuichi Nakamura's Chitose murmurs with molten metal, timbre a tremulous tease, intensity incarnating the ingenue's inner inferno, each avowal awakening the soul's smoldering spark. Rie Takahashi's Kenta throbs with throttled thunder, her growl a guarded grace embodying the Hikikomori's bridled benevolence. They transcend transcend timbre. They tantalize the tale, voices the vital venom in the vein, and it seeped into me like soda from a shaken bottle. A rush of rapturous release mingled with the rue of restraint's reminder, scars from the scene's shadowed savagery sparking wonder in the willful weave of wills. I felt the fusion, a destiny's detonation in that door-sealed delirium, a fulcrum flinging from fracture to fusion, trajectories tangled in a tentative tangle. Moments mesmerize, the threshold's traitorous twitch, wonder whipped in widened whispers, the boundary's bold breach, a scar of shared savagery. It summons Sartrean shadows. Have you, in desire's dungeon, danced with the divide between dominion and devotion? Despaired at the drag of decorum on the dog's dinner of the heart? Here, hope howls not as hush, but harmony. What if your walls were wildflowers, waiting for the wind to wilt them? The episode endures, a philosophical phantom in the partition, intrigue interlacing like instincts in visible ink. Does that delirium draw you deeper? The doors dare to delve, yet refract the reservations, and they reveal resonance. Pacing's precipitate passion, not precipitance, but primal, mirroring manga's merry mayhem in the mating, opacity and urges a stylistic snare soliciting scrutiny, akin to H. Lawrence's Lady Chatterley's lover luxuriating in the lewd. Complexity's carnal coil, calculated caress catalyzing craving. Appreciation avalanches, critique caresses the creases. I think the harem's hue bordered on banal, a touch too trope-tethered, but it tempers no tempest, the thrill unthwarted. Chitose Is in the Ramune Bottle episode 1 triumphs in its tantalizing torque. Premise a powder keg of prejudice and pulse, characters caressed with compassionate claws, artistry and aphrodisiac arabesque. It attains its ambitions, narratively, in navigating the naughty with nuance, artistically, in evoking the exquisite ecstasy of the edged. Weaknesses, whispers of wistful want in the world's wider woes, awaiting woven widths. But heed this, heart's hedgebreaker. What if bypassing its breach bars your own bloom, leaving longings locked in the limbo of the unlived? The episode isn't interlude, it's ignition, the wall waning at your whisper. Breach it, let their bond become the breach in your own bastion of the beige. What if the Ramune bottle you clutch, its glass cool and condensation-kissed, the marbles clink a mocking echo of connections just beyond the seal, held not refreshment, but the bottled breath of a boy too broken to uncork his own heart, where the fizzy tang of forced familiarity fizzes on your lips like insincere invitations, the faint fizz of opening doors mimics the fragile pop of buried bonds, and a single, shattered pain shatters the silence. Am I the savior they send, or the shadow who sees my own reflection in the recline? Feel the sticky residue of spilled soda on your fingertips, taste the cloying citrus undercut by solitude sour, hear the distant crash of glass fracturing like a facade finally failing, as a golden boy's grin glitches in the gloom of a hikikomori's haze, recalling the crystalline cages in the catcher in the rye fields, where phonies paraded while the pure plummeted, or the shuttered shojis of Tanazaki's The Makioka Sisters, where propriety preserved the pain. On October 14, 2025, as Tokyo's typhoon-tossed skies wept silver sheets over the sea-salted shores, Chitose Is in the Ramune Bottle episode 2. Let's start breaking common ground, effervesced forth in the arc of awkward awakenings. A second sip following episode 1's initial incursion into isolation's bottle, where the teacher's tactical trust had tipped Chitose toward the threshold. It's a carbonated conundrum, intriguing in its incremental incision into the idol's innards, yet veiled in the vapor of veiled verities, leaving me with a burp of bittersweet buoyancy and a belch of belonging's ache, like nursing a nearly flat fizz that teases transcendence. Have you ever shattered a window to wrench a soul from its sheath, only to glimpse your own ghosts grinning back from the shards? The episode doesn't uncap, it condenses the carbonation, suspense bubbling like a bruised marble, curiosity the cap creaking under pressure, inexorably imploring you to indulge. What fractures would you force for a friend's fleeting freedom, and what dregs of your own despair drain in the deluge? From episode 1's doorstep dalliance, where Chitose's polished plea had pattered futilely against Kenta's curtained keep, this sequel surges into sustained siege, the popular prince persisting with pranks and persistence, a window's wanton wrecking to wrench a reluctant rendezvous, classroom confabs curdling into candid confessions amid the clique's covetous chatter, and a soda-soaked sojourn that simmers with sibling shadows from Chitose's concealed chronicle. Transitioning with tender tenacity from tentative taps to tactile truths, it tides toward tempests of team trials and ripening revelations, sans the solace of swift success. Envision yourself there, pulse pattering in the pandemonium of that pain-shattered parlor, shards scintillating like stars stars in the sudsy spill of Ramune, Chitose's hand hovering hesitant as Kenta's gaze grazes the gloom, much like the glass-walled vigils and perks of being a wallflower's tunnel drives, where mixtapes mask the mend. Does the breach birth breakthrough, or merely more marbles rattling in the void? The précis pencils the perimeter, a prank's precipitous ploy, a past's poignant peak, a progress's shy scintillation. It's the interlude to Holden's phoniness-phobic phonies, seductive strokes sans the full swashbuckle. Not the liaison's length, but its latent lure, that visceral vice gripping your vitals, goading you to glimpse the grit, gauge if the ground gained guards or guts. Not the romance's ribs, but its ragged rhythm, the inexorable invitation to immerse, intuiting if the bottle's bubble bursts the boy's burden. This sophomore surge simmers with the subtle sizzle of dissolving Alka-Seltzer, measured in its mounting of mundane machinations, then mildly manic in moments of momentum, propelling the premise from Chitose's initial impasse to incremental inroads, illuminating Kenta's knotted knots while seeding scholastic schisms through the clique's corrosive commentary. Revelations ripple refined, Chitose's scumbag sheen as self-same slight masking a sister's similar seclusion, Kenta's cloister a cascade of classroom cruelties, no cataclysmic convulsions but a cunning counterpoint, the window's wreck as whimsical wedge, that apexes in an anticipatory afterglow, alliances aflutter and absences aching under the after-school amber, pacing Parley's poise with pulse, distilling manga's chapters 2 to 3 into 24 minutes of measured mischief. Languid levity in the lunchroom's limelight yields to lurid lingers at the lintel, equilibrating the rom-com's romp with the redemption's rumble to refute routine's rut. Chitose blooms as balm to the broken, his wounds of witnessed withdrawal, etched from a sister's shadowed shut-in akin to the sibling strains in my teen romantic comedy snafu, propel motivations of preemptive philanthropy. His ploys a consistent cascade of charisma that surprises in sincere stutters, transformative in turning team taunts to tender trials. Kenta, the kernel of the cloistered, reveals ripples of resilience, wounds of withdrawal fueling feigned fortitude, choices like cracked door candor consistent yet growth glinting in grudging grins. Iwanami layers levity with latent longing, his mandate a mirror to mentorship's mire, transformative, transcendentally, like Hachiman Hikigaya's service club sojourns. Dialogue drifts from directive decrees to doubt-dappled drollery. Reader, when have your spotlights scorched solitude, turning paragon to pilgrim? Profound probes pulse beneath the pop. What is connection when cliques calcify into cages, power's performative partitions, or morality's meticulous mending? Sacrifice simmers in Chitose's spotlight surrender, a sovereign's shadow play for survival's sake, manifesting hope's hesitant hand against despair's drafty door, echoing Sartre's no exit, where hell is other people, yet heaven the hand extended. Morality phrase in the team's tepid taunts, choices like the window's whimsy a survival stratagem in social snares. Hope versus despair, the Ramune's resilient role, urging, in your own bottled breaths, have you sacrificed shine for the shut-in spark? The seaside scholastic sphere expands organically, the Ramune ritual a resilient refrain, new lore in hikikomori hierarchies enriching cliques with cultural caveats, like Japan's 1.4 million recluses, 2023 stats, complicating without convolution, script sparkles like shaken soda, sharp spritzes slicing silences, poetic impaired pathos. Chitose's come on out cliché reborn as heartfelt hail, lines laden with foreshadows fizz resonating post-pop. Impactful, envisioning it in the shattered sanctum. Would you break the bottle to free the fizz? Doga Kobo's direction drips delight, campus a canvas of cerulean seas and citrus bursts, colors shifting from clique's cool detachment to room's rusty restraint, lighting limbing Chitose's grin in golden gloam. Fluidity in fumbling forays, stillness and stare-downs shaping solitude's sting, intimate intrusions via tight thresholds, Dutch angles distorting the door's dread, editing's effervescent ebb amplifying awkwardness. Yuichi Nakamura's Chitose quivers with queenly quirk, timbre teasing the tycoon's tenderness. Ri Takahashi's Kenta trembles authentically, souls sung in every stutter that a swell of sympathetic spritz scarred me sweetly. Chitose's cracked facade sparking wonder in Kenta's cracked door. Felt the fizz, a destiny's drip in that pain's plunge, fulcrum flipping facade to fraternity. Moments, window's whimsical whoosh, scar of sibling shade, echoes eternal. Have you bottled your broken, despairing at the divide, twixt dazzle and dim? Here, hope hydrates. What if your marble's the mend? Curiosity coils, crack the cap. Pacing's patient pour deliberate opacity osmotic invitation, like Joyce's streams. Appreciation overflows, critique, clique caricatures cartoonish, yet tempers the treat. Premise pops with poignant play, characters carved compassionately, artistry an ode to the opaque. Succeeds, narratively nurturing nuance, artistically awakening ache. Weaknesses, whispers of wistful want in wider webs. What if passing the pop leaves your soul soda flat? Episodes no end, effervescence eternal, marble mid-roll. roll. Uncork it. Let Chitose's crack become your cascade to connection.